Outer Orange.
Hey you, come here.
It's tier list time.
VANGUARD, welcome back. BCS season's right around the corner. I've done this one kind of recently, but we have had a few promos come out, some new stuff drop, and I actually think it'd be interesting to go back to V Premium here for a little bit. I am gonna be doing one for all three this time. So I'm gonna start with V Premium because I feel most comfortable with it. It's probably the easiest one to do. Rank the best decks to the worst decks in terms of clans and just kind of talk about them briefly per thing. It hasn't changed too much for V Premium, but going into the BCS season, you may be asking yourself, what are some of the best decks to take? And in case you missed the video from 4 months ago, guess what? Here's a refresher video on it now. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw Angel Feather just straight up in the B tier, maybe even C tier. It's not really doing too hot. It's fine. Like it's okay. It's a little cope there. Malkuth is kind of decent, but honestly, it's just not worth your time if you were truly trying to compete. Now, keep in mind, this is a very competitive perspective, not casual here. So I'm gonna be drilling a little bit. So don't get too offended, even if your deck is like kind of decent, or if you have a top in one of these decks, it's fine. Some decks are just more consistent. Some decks just do more. Aquaforce is still by far one of the strongest decks in the V Premium format, but you may disagree and be like, well, this other Excel deck is good. That's perfectly fine. Most of the Excel decks that are consistent are all pretty good. This includes Leopold and a couple other ones, so it's okay. Goals is still really good as well. I just think Aquaforce is a little bit better in terms of endgame state, whereas like some other decks like Leopold just kind of do the same thing over and over again, whereas Thavas can just ride Genovis and just finish the game then and there. It doesn't really need to like sit there and kind of wait for some things to happen, or wait for Excel markers to happen, or wait for like certain conditions to happen. It'll just kind of, you just ride Genovis and you win. So there's that. Bermuda Triangle is still probably an S tier deck, but rather you're going the Pawn Engine where you want to be a little bit more high roll. You go Ange. It's very good. I think it's on the lower end of S tier, but it's still very impactful. It still has the Pro Sisters, still has access to Ange, still has access to bouncing. The deck doesn't really kill fast enough, but it's still not a bad option. DI is still probably an A tier deck, though I will say with the promo, it's gone a little bit better. You have to be very careful with giving this deck Counterblast early on because you can screw yourself. Keep in mind a Hope on Damp. Deck is still good though. It still has that random gotcha where you just kind of flop sideways and die, but it's just not bad. DP is definitely probably a C tier. It has this random auto win with the Enigma stuff, but to be honest with you, it just isn't cutting it. Gears is probably really low-key a B tier. It's like right in the middle, but some would even say it might even be low A tier just because for some reason it is getting tops. Mainly you can go maiden, so you can kind of do like a half maiden, half jet package. Now Intrahana is banned, so you don't have access to everything clearly as much, all that kind of fun stuff. Now I'm not gonna lie, I do not know which of these is which. I think this is Genesis and I think this is Golds. So I'm just gonna take a stab and say that this is Genesis, and I'll find out later if I'm an idiot or not. Genesis is probably an A tier. A lot of the decks in here are good, but they're not all perfect, but they're good. Golds kind of falls into the same category. I did lose Percival, but honestly, weirdly enough, Gold's actually still pretty impactful. You'd be surprised, but decks like Duke actually can perform pretty well. Or if you go the regular package of just Gurgit, still does well. When a high rolls, a high rolls. Granblue is probably on the A tier side. It's probably on par with DI, I would say. I will say the deck's a little behind. It's missing some kind of oomph. It's missing something. I don't really know what it's missing, but it is missing something. It's just something that's pushing it back a little bit. It's definitely a good choice, but I will say once you start playing better players, people will know how to play around Granblue, and actually Granblue, especially Night Rose, if you're going the Night Rose build, you just start flopping. Beatrice is actually really good. We just got that Ghosty starter as well, and the Ghosty starter actually makes the deck better. The issue with Beatrice though is that it dies to retire, and sadly Thalas and Luard are in meta right now. Those decks just kind of destroy Beatrice, unfortunately, and it's just how it is. There's a Kagero kind of destroys this deck too. If you face Kagero, you're kind of dead. If you face Vanquisher, you're kind of dead. So there are certain matchups that's like almost an auto loss, and that's where Beatrice struggles. But overall, Granblue is not terrible. I would say it's probably on the lower end of A. Green Nature is probably up here. I think I put Green Nature a little bit lower last time. I would say it's definitely an A tier, probably close to an S tier deck. It's not, in my opinion, I still don't think it's like the best deck in the format. And like if I had to pick a deck to pick, I wouldn't, like Leopold is not the first deck that would be on my choice. It's not bad by any means. The crit pressure is good. The multi-attack is good depending which way you build. High roll or you build a high roll variant or the consistent variant. Both decks really work really well, but it just depends on what your flavor or sauce is. My issue with the deck is it doesn't really have a win con. The win con is attack, and I'm just not really a fan of that. You can run like weird guard trick stuff, but then it's kind of clunky, and so you're kind of forced to kind of run certain things. And then also going second, it feels very bad. But most of these decks feel very bad going second. Some of the ones up here feel pretty not good going second. By the way, these decks aren't bad. These are anything in S and A is like like basically a topping deck. Like it's either topped already, or it will top, or it's going to top, whatever the case. They're all topping decks. B is kind of where things get a little fishy. But speaking of B, let's go over to Kagero. Kagero is definitely like a B tier deck. It's not bad by any means. When it pops off, but you have to be really lucky. You have to hit certain conditions. Overload is still really good. Heal Guardians exist though, kind of knocks it back, makes it slow down a turn, which isn't very solid. Wing Joker is kind of a rogue pick. If you're trying to beat Luar, this is a great deck to take. If you're dealing with like something Bermuda, I guess it's like okay. It does shut down certain decks like Ground Blue a little bit because it locks them out of certain conditions. It doesn't stop Excel decks though. It doesn't stop Thalvis, and I think Thalvis is the thing you want to focus on the most if you want to go rogue. And because of that, I actually think this is like a probably a B, leaning more towards a C deck. It can be good when it pops off, don't get me wrong. The deck has its moments, but I'll give it a B just to keep it more on the neutral side because it definitely has its moments. It's not too bad as a rogue pick, but it's just not that great either. We have Mega Colony. Mega Colony is probably in C/B right now. Some of the promo stuff's actually pretty good. Kind of cheese out wins sometimes. It's just a consistency thing after that. Like the deck's good, and then consistency wise it falls apart. Throw it in C tier and just pretend I didn't say anything. Next we have, I believe, one of these is Narukami, one of these is Murakumo. And so this has to be Murakumo, which means this has to be Narukami, which means this is Nubatama. And Murakumo is definitely pretty bad right now. I would say it's definitely on the lower end. I think DP is better than all of these, by the way. DP is bad, but it's not this bad. They just got the promo, which makes Yasui a little better, but it just doesn't help the overall deck, so it's just gonna stay right there. Narukami is pretty decent, I would say. Some would say it's like an A tier deck. I think it's like a low A tier, high B tier deck. It's kind of right between A and B, I would say. It's not terrible by any means. It draws a lot, it binds, it does have like a decent win con. It's just like some of the other Excel decks above it are, I think, slightly better. It's like a margin difference. Vanguard going first is actually pretty scary. Neo Nectar is just bad. There's like these random sacky things you could do with Neo Nectar, but in actuality, you could just literally play anything else. Nova Grappler, I think, falls under the same exact category. I don't think it's very good. You could play Victor, kind of try to force out a win, but it takes a lot. Defenses really shut this deck down. It's just not really worth it. Now I'm thinking this is Nubatama. This has to be Nubatama. What the hell is this then? I think Nubatama is pretty in V, so I'll probably put it down here. I don't think it's too great. I think they got a promo too. I don't think it really helps it. Of course, it's a discard, which is like kind of interesting, but I think as long as you know as long as you read the cards, like it's just not very good. What the hell is this? It's not Angel Feather because we already did Angel Feather. Oh, this is Oracle Think Tank. Oracle Think Tank, I think, is like a B-ish deck. Conditions that it has are okay, but it's kind of like if your deck farms, you just don't really care. For example, decks like Anj, Davos do not care about Oracle Think Tank at all. If you have a way to go around guard sticks, you definitely don't care. Like Gurgit just doesn't care at all. Gurgit literally has a promo that just says bye-bye. I don't care anything about your guard sticks. So there's just a couple decks that just kind of play around it, just don't really care. Pillman is like kind of like a B-ish right now. Dolls is the only thing that's keeping this deck going right now. They're keeping this clan going right now. Dolls is actually not that terrible. Tosca is actually kind of fire. The issue with this deck is like one, defenses shut it down, which can be unfortunate. And it depends on how you attack. You can kind of, you know, get those. You can randomly high roll someone like really well actually, but the issue is like you have to be able to do that every single game, and you're consistently not going to do that every single game. But the deck is a lot points where you just start drawing to triggers because your deck is just all triggers. So, but aside from that, I think that's the only thing that's like keeping the clan strong in V right now. Everything else is very not in a good spot right now. Mostly it just needs more support, or the support is just too behind, one or the other. Robot Paladin is actually pretty good. Whichever variant you build, the Jewel Knight package and Jewel Knights in general is just really good, and they're the only thing that's keeping the clan alive right now. Shadow Paladin is definitely up here, probably like that. I would say if I had to pick best decks, I would definitely go Thalvis, Luard, and then Bermuda Triangle Anji things. But I will say sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's like this, sometimes like this. It kind of comes down to like high roll, like who, and I don't even mean like the dice roll, I just literally mean like high roll. Just like if Runa opens the Pro Sisters, guess what? You're dead. But then if Shadow Paladin opens like all their old Donnas, then you're kind of screwed too. If Thalvis just opens up all their rest targets, they're kind of just dead. So all three of these decks just perform really well, so they're just gonna stay up there. Spikes is definitely down here somewhere. Sorry, Spikes. And I'm trying to figure out what the hell this last clan is. I'm just gonna look it up. Tachi Kaz. Of course I missed Tachi's. Yeah, easy. Just kidding. It's actually like probably here. To be honest with you, if I had to pick like any other red decks, that would definitely be between these two right now. All three of these are kind of on the same bar for me. I do know that there's a promo coming out. I think it already dropped, but it's very possible for Tachi's. It might make the clan better for all I know. But personally, from what I've been seeing, it's just a random high roll deck that's just kind of similar to Pale Moon, just does random high roll stuff, and when it doesn't, just does nothing. And yeah, that's basically the tier list. I think that was pretty simple to the point. Try to keep it pretty simple. Not too much has changed, but I did want to, since we're about to enter BCS season, I think now is a really good time to go over these. We're not gonna have a ban list for a while, so this is basically gonna be the meta for V Premium from now until whenever we get the next ban list, or until a really juicy promo comes out, which I believe would be Grand Blue and Bermuda next. The Grand Blue has actually a really good promo. The issue is behind a Counter Blast, so I don't think Grand Blue will move up or down too much. I think it'll be about in the same spot. Bermuda gets a really good promo that makes Anj a little bit better, but it also means that to run more counter charge, but it does extend a really good attacks actually, so it is possible that that promo might make Anj a little bit better, but it'll force you to have to run counter charge. So we'll have to see. I'm very comfortable with thinking that this is actually pretty accurate. I do want to go ahead and actually move Royals up there. I think Royals is a little bit stronger. S tier is definitely decks that will top. We'll be seeing results. We already have in spring during Springfest. All three of these clans right here, we saw a ton of results on them. A lot of people are like, oh my god, Anj is bad. And guess what? It was like on all the charts. So Anj is definitely not bad. And then actually Pawn, which is the Melody deck, which a lot of people thought was going to be good, including myself. I kind of gaslit myself, to be honest with you. But that the results were way less. Anj was definitely performing better because it's just consistent. It just does this thing. And even though it may not have the biggest win con like Pawn does, it's still more consistent. You don't GS as much. You know, you don't sit there with no Vanguards to ride. So that's just how it is. But and then this is all these decks up here are very capable of topping. Every single one of these will top and can top. So they're just slightly less consistent in topping. That's the only difference between these two. I think in terms of like structure of a deck and win con, I think these three have a little bit of a better chance. They'll also be a little bit more popular. But if you had to pick one of the clans down here, you can also easily top with these clans. Nothing wrong with any of these, in my opinion. I think these are all fine. I do want to move Genesis down a little bit. Genesis could be a little bit lower. And we have seen results on all of these clans as well. So there's data behind that. Down here, we have some of the weird anomalies, I would say. These decks are more like roguish type of picks, but they can top, but they're just not going to top as frequently. It's just not as consistent, just not as good as the A and the S tier, so you just won't really see as many results on them. And there might be like random people kind of try to have fun or something, or maybe the event's a little bit smaller, so you may see some of these random decks come out. I will say these are a little bit better than the ones in this tier. These are slightly better decks in general, so these will have a better performance rate just overall, and there are tops behind these. They're just not as frequent as, and more people won't be bringing these as they will be bringing the decks up here. At C and D, you probably just shouldn't touch. Like if you're gonna touch any of these decks, you might as well touch the ones above it. But if you just want to have fun, sure, whatever, have a blast. But if you're trying to compete, don't expect to get the top, unless, like I said, we had smaller events happen in the past where, especially for V, because V is kind of a weird spot right now, so we had very small events and then DQs happen on top of them, and then we just had like random decks kind of break through. Nothing against the players, it's just kind of how it is. If the event's small and then on top of that people get DQ'd for having the wrong deck logs, then lo and behold, suddenly like a deck that was at a lower rank did end up having a top because they were just the next in line, and that's perfectly fine. It's just part of the game. It's part of how things happen. That's perfectly fine, but just don't expect to top with these decks. Like you can, but don't expect it, especially D tier. I would just not touch D tier unless you're just really trying to just have a party and just trying to have a good time. I think D tier is definitely the worst out of all of this here. I think most of the clans in here, there's decks in here that can potentially top, but I think in terms of like, you really just want to, if you want to win, just don't touch D at all. I don't think anything in D is worth your time. Sorry. I'm just being honest here. This is a competitive deck tier list. This is not a casual tier list. If this was casual, we'd have a completely different conversation right now. But other than that, guys, that is it for this video. Stay tuned for D and Premium. I'll be doing those as well. So get ready for those. Those are going to be coming out to make it easier for you to decide on what you think would be good to take to BCS, the two BCSs that are coming up. Stay great, stay awesome. Peace out, guys. Das vidanya. See you guys in a future video. Bye. Where's my little stinky butt? Where's my cat?